Welcome, virtual Y yogis. Welcome to my gentle yoga class. And wherever you're at, find a comfortable place to be on your mat. Perhaps it's on your carpet, on a blanket. Find a nice supportive place to set yourself up. We're going to have a nice, gentle, beautiful practice with the moon today. Let's come down onto the mat in what's called the supine position. The hands can be placed out at the sides, palms face up for a feeling of receiving and openness. Palms face down for a feeling of grounding. And we'll just begin to calm the nervous system, taking notice of how you feel your breath landing in the body this morning, today. And perhaps the eyes begin to close. No judgment, just an observation of how you feel the breath moving through your body and your diaphragm. Noting that everything cued today is just an option, an opportunity to explore. Knowing what's best for your body, move into any shape or position that would feel better at any time. And the breath work is all an option as well. Continuing to explore the breath, take your right hand and place it on your heart. And your left hand and place it on your belly. Noticing the gentle rise of the belly on the inhale. The gentle descend of the belly and the heart space on the exhale. Heart space, belly lifts on your inhale. Gently descends, exhale. Over the next few breath cycles, invite your inhale to move deeper into your belly. Inviting the belly to expand outwards. And gently descend on the exhales. A few more breath cycles here. And drawing the hands into heart center, Anjali Mudra. Eyes can be closed here. Begin to rub the hands together, creating some heat. And then gently, if you wish, cupping the hands over the eyes, basking in that heat. And slowly letting the hands descend back to heart center as the eyes gently blink open. And fixing your gaze on a focal point, something in front of you, and setting an intention for the rest of your class. Perhaps some love and light you'd like to send yourself for showing up today, wherever you're at for your practice. Perhaps sending some love and light to a family member or friend. And then we'll continue with some movement. From your supine position, take and bend through the knees. Let the feet land on the mat just in front of you. Hands are just out at the sides wherever they're comfortable, perhaps a little bit further away from the body. Again, palms face down, a feeling of grounding and connection. Palms face up for a feeling of open receiving. Walk the feet forward and back a few times. Let the feet land what feels like a good landing spot for your body. Slowly begin to wave the knees towards the right. Nice and slow, gently coming back towards center. Maybe just going about a third of the way as you pass the knees gently over to the left. Slowly the hands draw out to the sides at a T. Continue waving through the knees. And we'll add on next time the knees gently wave to the right. Gaze shifts to the left. And slowly, with control, coming back to center. Knees gently shift to the left. Gaze moves towards the right. Flowing through this meditative, slow flowing twist for a few passes. And perhaps continuing to explore that slow and low supportive breath. And being grateful we're here, we're able to explore this movement freely in our own comfortable space. Exploring any sensations through the body. Nothing to change. Building greater body awareness. And slowly, when you feel ready, coming back towards center. Drawing the hands along the sides. And gently pressing the feet into the mat. Pelvis doesn't need to lift, just a gentle foot press. Perhaps a clearing breath as well. On the exhale, slowly release. Perhaps even a 3 to 5 second releasing the glute muscles. Perhaps you feel it more in the quads. Explore this movement in your body, whatever feels good. Hands drawn along the sides, palms face down. Option to send the pelvis off the mat just a little ways. Continue exploring that foot press. Stabilizing through the low back. Fire up through your quads. Find some balance. Slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae, mindful, controlled release. And let's just flow into this, tilting the pelvis forward. Elbows or shoulders gently press back into the mat. Open the front side body. Slowly release. Come back to neutral. Tilt the pelvis forward towards the heart space. Shoulders draw off the mat. And slowly release. Supine cat cows. Let's flow through a few of these. Tilt your pelvis forward. Shoulders gently draw back into the mat. Opening up the front side body. Contract the back. And slowly, with control, release. Gently tilt the pelvis towards the heart space. Shoulders draw off the mat. Just a little ways. And then slowly release. And then flow through any variation that would feel good. Perhaps just isolating the pelvis, tilting the pelvis forward and back for a few rounds. And perhaps continuing to work with the shoulders as the pelvis tilts forward, the shoulders draw back. Come back through neutral. Pelvis tilts towards heart, shoulders draw up. Any variation that would feel good. And giving you a few moments to explore this sensation through your body. Again, gently drawing the hands out to the side, meditative twist. Let's give ourselves just about 30 luxurious seconds passing through this meditative, slow flowing twist. And eventually, when you feel ready, letting the knees land off to the side, and we'll come into a side lying pose. Here in the side lying pose, taking a note perhaps if your intention has remained the same, perhaps your intention has shifted or grown. And taking your strong arm and pressing yourself into a seated position. If you have a blanket available, or maybe you just have a small pillow or even a sweatshirt close by, you could take and fold up your blanket or sweatshirt right about like this and aid it right up to the back of the low back or the sacrum, kind of wrapping it around. And this may give a feeling of support. And play around with it. See if you can find the sits bones to land on your mat or ground, and then aid the blanket right up to the edge of the sits bones. Sits bones being the bottom part, base of the pelvis. And we'll find sits bones. Let's lean forward and back a few times. Just a gentle sway forward and back. Eventually find what feels like a neutral place for your pelvis to land. From there, lengthen from the sits bones all the way up. You could even take hold of under your armpits. Lengthen through the spine, lengthen through the crown of the head. Find your breath here, and then give your natural spine some agency in this posture. Just the right amount of effort to honor the natural curve of the spine. Let's release the shoulders. Hands draw out to the sides. Shrug the shoulders as high as you're comfortable. Perhaps on your exhale, slowly release. Notice what you notice. If you feel any bumps or staggers coming down, that's good. We're asking those muscles to release. One more pass. Draw the shoulders up as high as you're comfortable. Hold this awkward tension pattern. And slowly release. Talking to the muscles through the shoulder girdle to release and settle. Beautiful. Let's add some undulation through the shoulders. Perhaps elbows bend and the thumb wraps around the underside of the armpit. A few chicken wing arms. From here, wrapping the hands around the lower part of the ribs, chin tucks into the chest, pelvis gently tilts forward. And now we're here like the bud of the flower. We're going to open and bloom. Gaze gently lifts. Petals blooming, hands opening out wide. Gaze lifts. And come back. Perhaps crossing your arms in a different way each time as you tuck into the bud of your flower. And open, bloom. And perhaps you add on the breath, exhaling as you're tucking in, inhaling as you open, and then move with the flow of your own beautiful breath pace. Perhaps the eyes close. You build internal awareness around your own breath, your own body. Perhaps making this a moving meditation. And eventually, let your own body decide. Perhaps you land back in neutral. Perhaps you land with arms open wide, ready to receive any gifts from the universe. Perhaps you land tucked in, holding yourself, loving yourself. And let's land wherever you land. No place to be, no way to look. All beautiful flowers. And come back through neutral. Nice long spine. And let's imagine a moon. The moon can be any shape, it can be any color, any time of the year. Take and hold the moon in front of you. We're going to carry this moon into a lateral side bend. And so note, we kind of release the shoulders. See if you can keep the shoulders sort of at this neutral range as we begin to lift the moon. Overhead gaze is still facing forward. And just note where your shoulders are at. If you feel really drawn up, your shoulders are against the ears. It's okay, you could take a little stretch there and then just release the shoulders a bit. And we'll bend towards the right, holding your moon. Slowly begin to bend towards the right. And you may just find yourself going a little way. Pelvis is still connected to your ground or the earth mat. And really open up through the heart space. Gaze could even lift here. Inhale, center. Exhale, shift opposite way. And play with opening up through your heart space. And let's slowly flow through. Inhale, center. Exhale, bend. Inhale, center. Exhale, bend. Holding your moon. Inhale, center. And hold. Draw the moon out in front of you. Add a little sparkle to your moon. Perhaps a little neon, a little essence, fluorescence. And we'll shift, creating a bend, slowly beginning to bend towards the right. We may just go a little ways. Pelvis is still landed firm and solid on your mat, slowly back towards center. And opposite way. Inhale, center. Exhale, twist. Inhale, center. Exhale, twist. Inhale, center. Hold for a moment, and let's send the moon off. Send the legs out long, coming through Dandasana. And you may take time to rock from side to side, find that connection with the sits bones. Hands are out at the sides. Fingers can be in a tented position to find that connection with the ground. Feet are flexed back towards the nose. Lift through the chest. Press the thighs, the back of the thighs into the mat. You may feel some firing up through your glutes or quads. Lift the heart space. Let's do 2 more breath cycles here. Strong, solid Dandasana. And then let's slowly release. Let it all go. 1 more. Come back. Dandasana. And if you really fire up with your glutes, pressing the thighs into the mat, you may find a bit of a lift, naturally lifting through the heart space. Slowly release. Begin to hinge forward. Coming into a mini forward fold. Just a little way. And just minimal effort here, just letting yourself gently round forward. And just a release, coming back up through Dandasana. We'll do some seated sun salutations, and I'm going to turn towards the side so you all out there have a better view of me. And now if you have your blanket, if you'd like to aid it again up to the back of your pelvis, that's just an option. Coming through your tall Dandasana. Inhale, reach high. Exhale, hinge through the hips. Begin to fold forward. When the spine can stay long no more, then begin to round the spine. Hands land where they land. Inhale, slide the hands up the shins. Lengthen the spine, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, reach up high. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, reach. Exhale, slowly fold. Inhale, half lift. Lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold. Melt back into your fold. Inhale, reach up high. Perhaps this time we take hold of that moon. Draw it into the heart. Hold the moon at the heart space. Inhale, reach. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift. Tall spine, Dandasana. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reaching up high again. Grab a different moon this time. Draw it into the heart. Hands at heart center, feet flexed back. Perhaps coming back to your intention. Coming back into the breath. And release, sending the feet off to the side. And we'll come into a tabletop position. It's coming to find what's called stable tabletop. If you have your blanket and you'd like, or any other cushion, and you'd like it underneath your knees, that's a beautiful option. Giving your knees some cushion. Wrists land underneath the shoulders. Knees come underneath the pelvis. Coming into a stable tabletop, tops of the feet can press into the mat, or perhaps the toes tuck. Whatever feels more sound and stable for you. Hands are spread out wide. And for just a few passes, see if you can pretend like you're pushing away the mat. You might note the elbows begin to draw forward just a bit. And then unlock the elbows so they're not super locked. And you can go through that pass a few times, really pressing away with the mat. You may notice the elbows draw forward. And then let the natural lubrication enter the elbows and unlock the elbows. We'll go through a few cat-cows. Tilt the pelvis forward, gaze lifts, cow. Exhale, cat, pelvis tilts to heart, rounding, arching through the spine. Inhale, gaze lifts, pelvis tilts forward, cow. Exhale, cat. And flow with your own breath for a few more rounds. Or perhaps you let go of the breath pace altogether and just move through these at whatever pace feels supportive. Maybe you slow these way down and experience them slower, feeling what your body's feeling. From here, any organic movement that would feel good. And we'll begin to move through a rocking table, setting up in your stable tabletop. Send the pelvis back towards the heels just a little way. Perhaps they come back to touch the heels. Perhaps you just come back a little way. We'll move through a few rocking tables. Inhale, tabletop. Exhale, child's pose. Or maybe I'll call this a half child's pose. Inhale, tabletop. Exhale, child's. Inhale, table. Exhale, child's. We'll add on inhale, table. Walk the hands, one handprint ahead. Continue to breathe. Shift the weight of the shoulders over the wrists. Now we're in plank on knees. Take an inhale. Exhale, come back towards child's pose. Inhale, plank on knees. Slow and with control. Exhale, child's. 3 more. Moving with the flow of your own breath. Perhaps the eyes close. Finding some nice length through your spine as you're coming through plank. Finding some nice release coming through your child's. Eventually landing back in any chosen child's pose. Knees can draw out a little bit wider on the mat. Big toes coming to touch, perhaps creating a bit more room for your diaphragm. Walking the hands forward, and perhaps the forehead is landing on stacked hands. Perhaps the hands are reaching far overhead. Option to bend through the elbows, coming into prayer hands, hands in a prayer position behind the head, opening up the triceps. Let's do 3 more breath cycles here. On your next inhale, coming back through tabletop. And let's do a few lateral bends from side to side. Slowly begin to draw your right side hip towards Your right side armpit. Gaze is shifting, looking over the right side. And slowly back to center. Begin to look over the left shoulder, left side pelvis drawing towards left side armpit. And slowly release. And go through a few passes of these, moving at your own pace. A lateral bend from tabletop. And coming back to set up through your stable table, perhaps rinse through the spine a few times with a cat-cow or two. Find your nice long spine. Walk the hands one handprint ahead. Shift the weight of the hands over the shoulder, bending through the elbows, slowly letting the belly come to descend on the mat. If you have your blanket underneath, you may need to tuck the toes, shift a little bit of your weight to the side, and take your blanket away. And then we'll come down onto the belly in this prone position, beginning with your forehead on stacked hands. Feet are about hips width distance apart, shifting the weight of your pelvis from side to side. Drawing your feet up towards the ceiling one at a time, knees bent. Prone windshield wipers, slowly begin to wave your knees to the right and slowly to the left. And a few passes. Moving meditation. Option to be here in this moving meditation. Option to come back and join me in locust. Drawing your feet out long. Let your forehead come to the mat. Remove one hand at a time gently. Drawing the hands along the side body, palms face up. Imagine a magnet is drawing the back side of your heart. On your inhale, lift through the heart space. Drawing the forehead off the mat. Then drawing the hands and legs up. Feet pointed. From here, draw the shoulder blades in. And breathe, locust pose. Just the right amount of effort to maintain the breath. Option to draw the hands forward as if you're flying through space. Perhaps from here you take hold of the moon. And slowly release. Come back to crocodile pose. Forehead lands on stacked hands. And shift the weight of the pelvis from side to side. And we'll come through locust pose once more. Drawing the hands along the side body. Forehead begins on the mat. On your inhale, slowly lift. Arms, legs, chest space, forehead. And then really draw the shoulder blades in. Option to be here. 3 more breath cycles. Option to reach the hands forward as if you're flying through space. Take hold of the moon. And slowly release. Forehead lands back on stacked hands. And waving the hips from side to side. And there was just some really funny accordion music playing. We'll draw the feet up to the ceiling, knees bent. Slowly begin to wave the knees from side to side. And imagine there's lubrication coming into the hip sockets. So as the feet are moving from side to side, imagine the movement is truly coming from the hip sockets. Looking at this as a hip release, which it is. And drawing the feet out long, take the hands and place them underneath the shoulders, elbows bent, and we'll push ourselves back up through tabletop. Perhaps a few cat-cows. Let yourself decide where your practice is at today. Perhaps a few cat-cows to rinse through the spine. And perhaps you come back towards a child's pose. Let yourself decide whatever feels good. Eventually, let's come back, all meet in tabletop. We'll move through a down dog to come into a standing position. Walk the hands, one hand print ahead. Tuck the toes, take an inhale. Exhale, send the feet up high. The pelvis up high. And bend the knees one at a time. Walking the dog a bit and finding some nice length through the spine. Perhaps a nice generous bend in the knees. Lengthen the spine from tailbone throughout the cervical spine. Head is waving side to side freely. Come into a forward fold. Take an inhale and exhale, stepping the foot forward. Forward fold. Option to take hold of the elbows and sway side to side for a ragdoll. Perhaps the hands come to make connection to the mat. Perhaps they're still on your shins. Just let your body be where it's at. And bend and straighten the knees a few times. Notice as you begin to straighten the knees, the pelvis moves closer towards the ceiling. So land where you land. Take hold of the back of the calves here. And breathe 3 breath cycles, forward fold. And meet your body where it's at, just the right amount of effort to maintain the breath. We'll come to stand, bend through the knees, lengthen the spine first. Inhale, reach out wide and high. Draw the hands into the heart. And one last stabilizing move here as we're standing, swaying from side to side first, loosening up any tension. Different position to gravity. We'll go through one last standing move before rounding off our practice today. Standing half moon. So come to find your mountain pose. Feet are about hips width distance apart. Maybe even take a gentle rock from side to side. Let the feet land underneath the pelvis, finding your beautiful mountain. Maybe for a second the eyes closed, finding some grounding. Drawing the hands out in front, imagine you're holding your moon again. And perhaps it's the same moon from the beginning of our class today. Perhaps it's a different moon. Draw that moon up overhead. Shoulders remain where they're at. Release down the spine. And slowly begin to bend towards the right. And holding your moon gaze, can lift a bit here if you wish. And just breathe. Inhale, center. Exhale, left. Nice and slow. Inhale, center. Exhale, draw the moon just right in front of you. Draw the feet out wide. Toes pointed slightly out. We're going to take this through our goddess pose. Pelvis is landing right underneath the heart space. Take an inhale. Exhale, bend through the knees. Pelvis is just underneath the heart space, holding your moon. Perhaps you hold the moon at a distance. Perhaps you draw the moon into the heart. Let your practice decide. You could take a little sway from side to side. It's the right amount of effort to maintain your breath. We'll call this Goddess Moon. Perhaps a little bit of pulsing, and then we'll come to stand. On your next inhale, release. Send the moon away. Hands draw out wide, nice big star posture. Become expansive. Feel all the gifts from the universe. Maybe the hands even twinkle. And hands draw back to the waist. Maybe a little side to side shimmy or twist here. Undulation through the shoulders. And we'll come back down to the mat. Make yourself comfy and cozy. Coming into Shavasana. You can come through Shavasana either lying on your back supine, or perhaps it's on the belly today prone. Let yourself decide where you'd like some restoration. And as you settle into your Shavasana final resting pose, ask yourself if you could get just a little bit more comfortable. It could even be repositioning the feet or the hands. And settling back into your natural breath pace. And drawing your attention to your heart. And as the moon resides in the heart space, note if it has a color or a shimmer. Wrap that fully around the heart space. That color, that glow. With the heart space, fully wrap that glow around the whole body, tucking yourself in, resting in this glow. Be here, restore and heal, and I'll call you back when it's time. As you are in your own space, I invite you to rest, restore, and heal here as long as you wish. Your mat, your practice, your space. And if you're ready to carry on into the day, bringing some movement through the body, slowly coming into a seated position. And placing the hands at heart center. Thank you so much for joining me today, virtual yogis. I hope you have a super blessed day wherever you're at. I'm drawing your thumbs into the third eye or the forehead to seal in your practice. And take a bow. Namaste.